Where would we be without the various products delivered by the men and women in the trucking industry? Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast is a platform for professional long-haul truck drivers to share their journeys over the road, educating listeners about the trucking industry and lifestyle. Now, let's dive into the conversation on this brand new episode. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Healthy Conversations in Trucking. I'm your host, Dr. Charlotte Huntley, and I'm joined by my husband and co-host, Jonathan Huntley. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, Doc. It's a pleasure again.
Well, I am really happy to tell you that on this episode, we're going to have Randy. What's your connection with Randy? How can you introduce him to in this episode?
Well, Randy and I go way back. For many years, he was one of the first people I met when I started this one company that I'm with now. Randy had been there from almost the beginning of this company, and he was there, and he would give amazing advice, not only on how to haul cars, but on how to be a man of God over the road. He is a true believer, and he takes that and puts it in car hauling and driving in general, and it just makes the experience so much better. Whenever you talk to Randy, or if you're having a bad day, you call Randy, and Randy will say something that just perks you right up. His knowledge of driving in general is, second to none. So it's a great pleasure and honor to know Randy and have him on my phone and anytime I need him.
Yeah, I could see that. He was, like I said, just full of wisdom. And he told me that, I don't want to be a spoiler alert here, but he and his wife both drove for years together over the road. And he told me a bit about that. And I really hope that I can bring her on the podcast as well in a future episode. I'd love to hear her perspective from her years of driving. So I guess on that note, let me go ahead and connect my conversation with Randy right now. So, Randy, thank you for taking time to meet with me. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. If you don't mind, I'm going to dive in with my questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Awesome. So the first thing I'd love to ask about is just really about your journey. So as I get to know you, my first question is, how long have you been in trucking?
I've been in trucking full-time since 97, I guess. I was involved in trucking some before the CDLs came along, but I wasn't trucking at the time of the CDL, so I didn't get grandfathered in. So I had to go take a test and get my license in 95, 97, something around there.
Nice. I didn't even think about a time before CDLs.
Yeah, back in the 80s and prior, every state had their own little deal going on. Some states had a chauffeur license required. Some states had just Class A license required. And some states, if you had a license, you had a license to drive everything.
Yeah. Well, what brought you into this field? Like, why did you choose trucking?
Well, I like driving and I like the traveling part. Actually, what really launched us into trucking was I've been involved in a lot of different things. I've owned a logging company. I've owned insurance agency. I've been involved in sales and different sorts. When our daughter graduated high school, my wife and I decided we wanted to see the country and thought we could do it while making money as a truck driver. So she went to school. I already had a CDL. She went to school in 97, got her CDL, and we launched out as full-time team truck drivers.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
We did get to see a lot of the country, but it was all through the windshield of a truck. Some of it was nice, and some of it was not so nice. My wife and I are kind of workaholics, so that kind of worked against us. It was killing our health. We drove together for about 5 years, but it was bad on our health because we didn't stop enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine that. And what do you haul?
Right now, I'm a car hauler. Okay. I've been a car hauler for, I guess, about the last 18, 20 years, something like that.
Nice.
I haul cars mostly on the east of the Mississippi.
Oh, okay. Well, my husband's a car hauler, so that's really what I know best. Even though it's very small, the knowledge level is very low, but I know a few things about from what I hear from him and some of his conversations. So how much?
Yeah, and Jonathan does a great job.
Yeah. How much time do you spend on the road, out traveling before you go back home?
Right now, I'm in a pretty good spot. I go home every week. I generally take off on Monday, and I'm home by sometimes Saturday, do a 34-hour restart, and then do it again.
Yeah.
My home time doesn't always hit right on a Sunday, but most of the time it works out pretty good like that.
Yeah, that's a good cycle. That's kind of where we are right now, and it still sucks that on the road and away from home, but it when you can get into somewhat of a pattern like that, it makes it a little easier for kind of planning things.
It does.
Yeah. And you say you're east of the Mississippi for the most part. So
yep, for the most part.
So, but you spend a lot of time over the roads. So I was just curious, what's your favorite part of the country or any particular state that you've traveled in that's your favorite?
Well, I guess my favorite is the East Coast. That's the reason I run out here. I like running up and down through the mountains. Tennessee, Virginia. I don't particularly care a whole lot for New York, New Jersey, but it seems to pay better up there, so I find myself up there a lot.
Yeah.
I like running in the south in the wintertime and north in the summer, but it doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah. I definitely understand that. And so if you think about like what you like most, what you like least, let's start with what you like most. What do you like most about what you do?
Oh, I guess what I like most about what I do is I'm pretty much free to be my own boss. I don't work a real rigid schedule. I get to choose a lot of loads, so I choose where I go. I choose where I work. I deliver when I get there. I don't. A lot of trucking. The guys work a lot more rigid schedule where they bump docks and they have certain appointments they have to make all the time. Mine is a lot more laid back. I did the dock bumping. I've run dry vans. I've run tankers and a little bit of flatbeds. So I'm familiar with the other parts of trucking. It's just that most of those have a lot more rigid schedule. Where mine is a lot more laid back. I like that a lot.
And so the flip side of that is, what do you like the least about it, about trucking in general?
The least about trucking in general is being gone all the time, not being home at night. That's a tough thing to get used to, and I don't know if anybody ever really gets fully used to it. If I could do my job and make the kind of money I make and be home every night, it'd be a lot better. But unfortunately, trucking usually doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that one. And, you mentioned a little earlier about some of the health challenges. What is the biggest health-related challenge for you over the road?
I guess the biggest challenge is trying to eat right and get enough exercise. What I'm doing now, hauling cars, is from the exercise standpoint, I get more exercise than a lot of types of trucking. So that's helpful for me. The more loads I haul a week, in other words, the shorter the runs, the more exercise I get, and that helps out a lot. Eating seems to be a challenge. There were times when I've pretty much ate most meals out. That turned out to be terrible on my health. So now I try to visit a Walmart or a grocery store at least once a week and stock up my little cooler. And I got a microwave in the truck, and I try to prepare most of my meals on the truck. I'm still eating fast, so I still don't have time to probably eat the way I should, but it's a lot better than trying to eat out of a truck stop all the time. A lot healthier and a lot cheaper too.
Yeah, I can remember a time when I would spend a lot of my energy trying to shop for Jonathan and kind of have things stocked at home so that when he got ready to go back on the road, he could kind of take his food and stock his truck and kind of minimize some of the running around. It also, back then, it helped to give us a little bit more time, I guess quality time, when he was actually home instead of having to run errands and so forth. But that didn't last too long. He just has to, he found his spots where he can, find, like you said, the Walmart, the places he can get into and buy what he needs.
Right.
So if you had to share a tip for other drivers that are maybe kind of having some of the same challenges, or maybe even new drivers who are just trying to get acclimated, what would you say to anyone who's, new to driving, or maybe someone who's dealing with some of those challenges? Do you have any kind of tips for them?
Yeah, figure out what kind of foods work for you besides eating out, besides the fast foods, besides the greasy foods, because they'll kill you. It's hard to maintain any kind of a healthy lifestyle if you're eating out too much, because typically foods that we eat out aren't made to be healthy. They're made to taste good. They're usually chock full of calories and a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
So learn to eat out of a cooler. Learn to figure out what works for you as far as foods that you can eat on the road. If you don't have a cooler, get a cooler. If you can get a microwave in your truck, an inverter in your truck, do it.
It's really good tips.
Try to stay out of the truck stops.
Yeah. You do you have any favorite foods that are easy and like your go-tos when you're stocking up your cooler?
Well, something real simple for me is low sodium V8. Because it's hard to get enough fruits and veggies out here. So one of the things that I try to hit from the grocery stores at least once a week is pick up some fresh fruits. If I can't get some fresh fruits, get some canned fruits. And it's hard to get enough vegetables, so a couple of cans of low sodium V8 a day helps a lot in the veggie area. Sounds kind of crazy, but I sometimes get canned stuff like Prego or Campbell's soups that have a flip-top can on it. And I've learned the hard way. They don't always have to be hot. They taste pretty good, and they're healthier than grabbing a hamburger from McDonald's.
Yeah, my kids still laugh at Jonathan for that, but yeah, you're right. It's definitely it's a better option, a better choice. I like your low sodium V8 idea. I hadn't really thought about that before, but that's a great way to, because my first thought is, the regular version does have a lot of sodium. So the low sodium V8 is great. And it's a great way to get vegetables in and a couple of times a week.
Right.
The fresh fruits are great, especially when you can grab stuff in season and get it just right. But those cans are now those little plastic ones with the peel back tops, or all those things are good options as well. So some good tips.
Yeah, certain times of the year like this, sometimes it's the only thing that you can get that really works in the truck. And unfortunately, the days are long. The days are typically 14 hours, and we most of us try to maximize our driving hours. So that means we've got 11 hours behind the wheel. That doesn't leave a lot of time for stopping. And getting the other things done.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that. And when I'm catching up with Jonathan, the time issue. Yep. Always on the go. Got to keep the wheels moving. Well, Randy, I really appreciate you for taking time and, chatting with me and just sharing about what you do, sharing some of those tips as well. I appreciate the work that you're doing. This is a lot of fun for me to host this podcast and to get to hear some of the stories that are not just from my husband, but from the other men and women who choose this profession and make this to keep our country moving. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you for being a guest on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for calling.
Thank you for listening to the Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast. Learn more or be a guest on a future episode by visiting healthyconversationsinTrucking.com or simply HCITpodcast.com.